Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be showing you everything you need to know about looting the new underwater labs. First thing to note is that you can find them on the edge of the map, and furthermore, using the new layers function on the right side of your screen, you can actually figure out which of the labs are larger. For example, with this lab here, if we click on 1, 2, 3 and 4, we can see all the different layers, and because it has 4 different layers, it means it's one of the largest labs on the map. However, if we go over to this lab here, if we click on number 2, you can see that it doesn't have a second layer, and therefore it's not really worth looting unless you're a solo who's only after a little bit of scrap or you want to do some fishing. Unless you're a solo who's still primlocked, I would highly recommend going after some of the larger labs, as the smaller ones just aren't worth looting, and the scientists that you'll find in the lab aren't that strong. If you have even a pistol, you should have no trouble taking them down. You can get to the labs on any of the boats, submarines, or even by swimming if you have flippers. Once you get there, it's important that you have at least flippers or a diving tank. You don't necessarily need both if you know where the moon pool is. If you know where the entrance is, your character can hold its breath long enough for you to dive down with flippers and then resurface. However, if this is your first time visiting the lab, then I would highly recommend that you at least have a diving tank so that you can swim around for a little bit until you locate the lights. Labs can have multiple entrances, but they'll always have these bright lights surrounding them. If you have flippers on, what you want to do is make sure that you're fully armored up with everything except for the flippers so that you can quickly surface. This is because sometimes scientists will camp the entrance and you need to get up the ladder very quickly and kill them before you move on. The scientists down here are about as strong as the tunnel dwellers, so of course you can do it with a bow, but a gun is highly recommended. Once inside, you can loot the scientists and various different crates which will be scattered around the monument. Make sure to stay away from these radiation barrels, as they give the same amount of rads as the top of the launch site. So even with a hazmat suit, you'll still get a decent amount of rads, and if you have anything worse, it's going to be a whole lot more damage. You'll find a lot of green keycard rooms, and most of them aren't worth looting. However, some of them will spawn green or blue keycards on the desk, and most of them will have at least one crate. As you can see in this one, the crate's up top above the lockers. You'll notice that most of the new loot containers have different textures. For example, the large yellow box, the small blue box, the low grade fuel and crude oil, the ammo crates, the med and food crates which can be found on top of shelves, as well as the components box which can also be found on many shelves. For all of the green cards you can just swipe it, and for the majority of the blue cards it's the same. However, for a couple of them you might need to swipe a green card to enter a room in order to place a fuse, and then all you have to do is just flick the switch and the timer and it should light up the blue key card. It doesn't get much more complicated than this, and they don't tend to spread out the electricity, so if you want to enter a room but the keycard's not glowing, then just have a quick look around for somewhere where you might be able to put a fuse in or flick a switch. Here's what one of the red card puzzles looks like. All you have to do is enter the fuse, swipe your card, activate the timer, and then finally flick the switch to open the door. Inside of the red keycard puzzles, you can generally find elite crates. The reason I can't tell you exactly how to do the puzzle is because the labs are procedurally generated, which means that depending on your seed, they will always be different. I spent about 40 minutes clearing out the 4-story lab, and this is all the loot I got after recycling. Keep in mind this lab didn't even have a red keycard spot, so if you clear out one of the larger labs with elite crates, you can expect to get around 2k scrap an hour. What's even more overpowered is that the crates will actually still respawn even though you're in the lab. This means that on high-pop servers in larger labs, as a duo, you could send one person back in the boat to depot your components whilst the other one clears out the lab for a second time. I do expect this to get nerfed a little bit as it seems a bit strong. However, I do feel that the smaller labs are definitely still quite balanced, as there's nowhere near as much loot on them. On some of the larger labs, you can find a room which has a computer station which has access to all the cameras on board. Blue card rooms can spawn either a blue or a red card, and if you find a lab which gives you a green, blue and a red, then you can run the labs indefinitely. Furthermore, if you get access to the seed of the server that you're playing on, you can actually run a private server with that same seed, and then fly around and force all the keycards to spawn in order to figure out where they are. The command spawn.fill_groups forces all keycards as well as crates to respawn. If you're running low on meds or bandages, keep in mind that the toilets will actually give you 100% comfort if you sit in them, and if you have more than 200 hunger, you should get to full health. Scientists can open doors here, so just keep that in mind. And that's all the information I have for you today about the underwater labs. I think they're a great addition for solo players, especially the smaller ones, but I do think that the larger ones are slightly overtuned, and the fact that they don't respawn when people are still on board is a little bit weird in my opinion. Of course, this is still the first week, and a lot of things are still subject to change. If there's anything you feel that I missed out on, feel free to leave it down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.